Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Holman, and I'm the Clinical Product Marketing Director here at Riverside Insights. I'd like to thank you for taking time today to join us for our webinar, Exploring the New WJ5, Features, Benefits, and Updates. Today, I am pleased to introduce Dr. Katie Genske. Dr. Genske is the Head of Clinical Product at Riverside Insights. She is the product owner for all clinical products, including the Woodcock-Johnson suite of assessments and the Patel product line. Dr. Genske received her master's and doctorate degrees in clinical psychology from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. She is a clinical psychologist who spent 10 years working in private practice, schools, and hospitals, conducting psychological and psychoeducational assessments before transitioning into test publishing. Throughout her current career, Dr. Genske has been involved in the development and standardization of multiple psychological assessments. I know that Dr. Genske is excited to share with you an up-to-date walkthrough of the new WJ5. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. A recording of today's presentation and certificate of attendance will be sent to all registrants by the end of the week. The recordings from our previous webinars can also be found on our website. And now, without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Dr. Genske.
All right. Thank you very much, Sarah. I appreciate that. I'm going to get right into it because I am super excited to talk about the WJ, which is officially now available. So I want to make sure that we get into talking exactly about what we have to offer with the new WJ5. I'm going to go just pretty quickly through the batteries and the tests. I know those are the most important part of the information for WJ5 because that's what you need to know most about. But I also want to just get into the platform itself and demo what the platform looks like, and you'll see some of those tests in there. But if you ever have questions about tests and batteries, we have plenty of content on our website. You can go through and see exactly what's available to you. Today, our evaluators, including yourselves, are facing the perfect storm, right? We have a lot of referrals that are coming at us, and we don't have as many staff as we used to be able to get through those referrals. We're pressed for time. We have a lot on our plates, and we really need to be able to access information as quickly as possible about everyone that we're assessing so we can do our jobs and make sure that our information is accurate and valid. So what we're doing with the WJ is solving a lot of those problems for you. Your mental load, you can't sustain it when you're trying to juggle everything you have to do in your job. Do I have enough test records? We've had plenty of times where people have run out of test records and they're walking into an evaluation and they don't have a way to score what they need. That's no longer going to be an issue. You're not going to have to worry about finding that kit. You're always going to have everything available at your fingertips. You're not going to have to worry about finding different tests. We've got everything you need to be able to assess for intellectual ability, for achievement, for language, all within this one platform. So you can pick and choose and put everything together. And I'm really excited to show that. So all of this stuff that you're thinking about, did I start the timer? Did I flip the page? Did I flip forward or backwards in the right direction? Where am I at in my response book? Do I have the response book? Do I have the test record? Did I mark that correctly? I have to put a note down. I also have to do the behavioral observations for this person as well. All of that is a lot to do. So we really tried to do our best to make sure that we put everything together that you're going to need for your evaluation. The structure of the WJ5 is slightly different from the WJ4. So I just want to cover that quickly. We do still have the test of cognitive abilities and the test of achievement. We, in WJ4, had the test of oral language as well. In the WJ5, that's now the WJ5 virtual test library. And the reason for that is that we had a lot of different tests that didn't always just fit in an oral language battery. We moved some of those tests into the achievement battery. We moved some of those tests into the cognitive battery. Some are still in the virtual test library. And then we had a bunch of tests that we were also building and creating. And we put those in that virtual test library so that you can assess for any issue that you need to within your special education battery. So you have everything at your fingertips. So that virtual test library does have a lot of cool things in it. And all of our other batteries in the cognitive and the achievement also have new tests, new clusters, new content. So this is very, very exciting stuff. Some of the changes that I just want to point out, you can see all the green tests are brand new. So lots of new things that were added to the WJ5. And these tests are spread throughout the cognitive, the achievement, and the virtual test library. We have 2 tests that were in our ECAD, and we moved those into the WJ because they're really, really great tests. So verbal analogies went into the cognitive battery, number sense went to achievement battery. Those were, again, not in WJ4, they were in our ECAD battery, but now they're a part of WJ5 because they were so great in giving the information that was needed. And then we have some tests, a couple, well, I think just one in blue, that was in prior editions of WJ, but not in the WJ4. So we took sound reversal and we pulled that back out of some of the old WJs. We updated that content and we renormed it for WJ5. We also have some tests in the WJ4 that are now full length. So they used to have 2, they were sub-tests within the WJ4. Now they're individual tests that stand on their own. You'll see those in the purple. And then a test we made out of combining other tests from WJ4 we put together as well. So lots of new things that we did here. When people really ask about what's the difference between WJ4 and WJ5, there are so many. There's a lot of new test content, a lot of new tests, a lot of new items and tests that you may be familiar with. Of course, we completely renormed it to be digital. It's the only digitally normed assessment like we have in the market today. So really, really neat things that we're offering with WJ5. There's a lot of changes. There's no direct comparison, but there's still a lot of what you love and what you depend on in WJ to get your valid and reliable results. So I'm going to go right into exiting out of this PowerPoint so I can get you into the platform itself. I'm already logged in here. I do want to actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign out and just show you. This is the same page. I know we've gotten questions about this already. This is your same login. If you are a WJ4, this is where you come, the same place you came for WJ4. So when you purchase the WJ5, you'll get an email that shall say either from your account holder, or if you are the account holder, you can access and activate it. And you'll be able to log in and say, I am an existing customer, I have WJ4, or I'm brand new, don't have WJ4, and I'm just a brand new customer. So you can do that, but you're still coming to the same place. Oh, and of course, leave it to me to have the wrong typing in here while I'm talking. I apologize. Okay. When you do log in, you'll have all of your products. So if you do have WJ4, you'll see that in here as well. But you can also see the new tile for WJ5. And that's what you're going to click to get into the new test. This is our WJ5 dashboard. It's simple. We try to keep it as simple as possible, not to confuse anything. We try to keep it as clean as possible so you can see what you're doing. So let me go through this, because when you log in for the first time, yours is going to look a little bit different because I've got some stuff in mine. Yours will be a little bit more clean. You won't have anything in my test assignments. That will be empty because you have not yet created any examinees or tested anyone. You'll see test sets, examinees, staff, reports, and resources. And of course, your account details up here, including subscription details. You can contact us. We have a notification center. So this is where we will post notifications for you. Always check this out for up-to-date information sharing. This is where we're going to let you know. We want you to check this area as much as you can every time you log in, because there may be some new things there. And then, of course, resources are here, or you can come up to this tab here. But you can access Riverside Learn, which is our learning management system. Lots of content for you to learn all about the WJ. We have onboarding tutorial videos, quick reference guides. We have everything you could think of to get your help, and I'll go through those so you can see what those are. But upon logging in, the first thing you're probably going to want to do based on your role, whether you're an account holder or an examiner, is look at your staff. So let's go there quickly. Here, it'll look just like mine because you haven't had anyone in there. You can add staff. You can add as many examiners that you need to based on your account permissions. So when I add staff, say I'm the account holder and I want to add someone in, I put in their information, I put in the username. The username can match the WJ4, and I can send the invite. They'll receive it via email, they'll click, and they'll be automatically entitled to your account. I can also turn on and off cognitive testing if I'm that account holder, because that's based on your high qualification level. So that's a really important piece that you need to be in control of as the account holder, is giving access to the cognitive testing only to those that are qualified. And I can have people manage all of their staff within my organization and export data. There's a couple of different things here that you can do. So this is where you come to start putting in all your staff and everyone that you have within your organization based on, again, if you are the account holder or the examiner. So good information there just to start off. That's probably what the first thing you want to do. Once you are actually in here as an examiner, you're going to want to put in examinees, right? You want to be able to add people to test. So right at the top next to staff, you can add your examinee. Adding examinee, very simple. We don't require a lot of information. We wanted to make it quick, easy, and simple for you. So first name, last name, their gender, their date of birth, and you could put an ID if you need to. You could put additional information should you want to. If you're going to do that, that's fine. You can fill this all out and it will be set and saved for you. And you can also create your own user identified fields as well to add to that examinee. That is all you have to do, quick and easy to be able to do that and add your examinees. From there, if I did just add an examinee, I can create a test assignment. What creating a test assignment means is that I'm going to go and I'm going to pick all the tests that I want for a particular examinee, and I'm going to set up that assignment. So when I go into the testing session, all of my tests are already chosen. I know what I'm going to administer to that individual. It's already saved in here. When I get into the room, I can just click and open it and it gets running on its own, and you're good to go. You don't have to do this while the examinee is sitting in front of you. You can do it anytime, and it's all saved in here for you. So if you know a week ahead of time who you're going to assess and what tests you want to administer to them, you can set this all up prior. You can search your examinees by name or by date of birth. So that's another thing that is helpful as well. After you add your examinees, like I said, you can create your test assignment. You can do it from here where you put your examinees in, or you can do it from your dashboard as well. So if I'm doing it from my dashboard, I do have to select an examinee. So I'll have already created my examinee and I can pick who I want out of everyone I've created. Once I do that, their information is populated so I can review that and make sure that is the examinee that I want to test. And I can pull up any test set name, and whatever I have in here will pull the test. Now I'm going to hop back after I go through this just to show you how to create these test sets, but these will be the ones that I have either saved myself, created myself, and saved so I can pull them. Let's say I always want to give tests in the cognitive battery for getting my general intellectual ability. If I know I'm always going to get that or give those tests, I can just pull this up and they automatically get loaded. So it's really going to save me time. I select the level of education, so I just put in their grade. And then with that, I can adjust school years if I need to. I can select starting points, age or grade, and I can turn on or off voice capture. Voice capture is a really nice feature. You can have it on during the entire assessment, the whole session that you're testing. You can turn it off for some tests, have it on for others. It's at your control every time you launch into a new test. But it's really nice for review. So I always keep it on. Voice capture, after you commit at the very end and you get your scoring and reporting, it goes away though. So make sure that you always use it during your review. Once you commit, that voice capture is no longer saved. And then I would save this here if that's what I was going to do, is just give those that general intellectual battery. If I was giving that to this person, I would save this and it would launch. I could launch right in. I am going to cancel out though, because I want to show you how to create your test sets, which to me is the most exciting part, because I think it's really cool how we can easily see what tests to give. You're going to come with three preloaded test sets: the dyslexia test set, the GIA, General Intellectual Ability test set, and the Broad Achievement test set. Now, the reason we preloaded these is that the majority of all of our market said these are what they use the most. So they're preloaded for your easy, you don't have to create it on your own. However, if you want to create your own, that's fine too. You can go up, create new test set. We have two different views to create your test set. Your cluster view, which shows clusters within the test of cognitive ability, clusters within the test of achievement, and then clusters within your virtual test library. Now, if I drop these little carets open, you'll see within general intellectual clusters, I have 3 different choices. I can get my entire GIA, I can get a brief intellectual ability, or I can just get my GCGF composite or GFGC composite. I can expand these further and look at all of the other broad ability clusters. They're listed out here, and then my narrow clusters are also here. So I love this because I really don't have to think about what I want. I just have to look at the cluster level. I know I want to give a brief intellectual ability. I click it, the tests are loaded. I don't have to search for that test and say, oh, did I get all of the tests that are included in this cluster? I just pick at the cluster level, and it's really nice. So if I pick here too, you'll see whatever I pick will only add the test that is missing, right? So for comprehension knowledge, it's not just verbal analogies, but because oral vocabulary is already loaded up here, I can, it doesn't load twice. So whatever you have, whatever you pick is going to be loaded. This is a very, very nice way to be able to get through it. Same for test of achievement. If I know I have someone that I really want to test their reading abilities, I can look at reading comprehension and reading fluency. I select those and they are loaded automatically for me, which is really nice. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to make sure I have my GIA, and I'll keep those reading tests in there. And let's say I want to put another math in there too. I'll do math problem solving. This is a big battery, but I think it's good just to show you. I won't go through it all. It would take about 1 hour and 14 minutes. That's the other nice thing that you see up here is about how much time it would take given, how long these tests take to administer. So if I go to save that, I can create a test name. So I'll just say test set for demo for this one. And it was saved, and now it was added to my test sets. So again, a couple different ways to be able to launch this with an individual. If I've already put my examinee in and my examinee information is saved in there, I can go ahead and just click this little plus button next to this test record here, and it'll create a test assignment. So I can go ahead and get ready for launch. If I need to, I could duplicate this test set. I can delete it. I can edit it. So these are great ways to be able to play around, create your own test sets. You can pull any test from the cognitive, from the achievement, from the virtual test library, and make it all your own. No more taking out one kit, getting through it, taking out another kit, getting through it. It's all together. You can mix and match, and you don't have to give all tests within a battery. You only give the ones that are applicable to that person that you're assessing for the referral reason. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to launch a test assignment. So I'll go through this quickly. Again, my examinee details. Yep, I want to do my test set for demo. That's what I just picked up. I'm going to select their level of education. I'll keep everything else as is. I'm going to save that. So here I can just look through, this all looks correct, and I can immediately launch the test assignment. So I can do it from here, and if I do it, it immediately launches it. I'm going to close and just show you the other way. You'll see on your dashboard now, it is also loaded here. So it's saved. So if I exit out and I come back in 2 weeks, it's still going to be here. It's going to have my examinee, the test set that I just, that I saved to this examinee when I created it. And it's going to show me if it started, not started, in progress, expired. So this will give me some good information. I know this is the one I want. I haven't even started it yet. These are in progress. I didn't finish these and I didn't commit them for reporting. You'll notice right up here, it says active and complete. These are my active ones. If I click over to complete, these are the ones that I have completed and I can get reporting on them. So if I want to go back to something I completed and generate a report, I can do it right here. Okay, so I've got that saved. That's wonderful. I'm almost ready to go. But before I launch into it and before I go into the test, I just want to make sure I show you our resources section. Some of these tests I loaded may have a response booklet requirement. The response booklet is only for achievement tests that require the individual to write. We still have tests that require handwriting and to mark on paper. and it's only in the achievement battery. So if you're giving anything in the cognitive or anything in the virtual test library, there's no response book required. Right here, I can go to Riverside Learn, where I can learn a lot about the WJ. I also have my onboarding tutorial videos. I have quick reference guides. Our manuals are all posted here by chapter, so you can take a quick look and see what you need. And here you'll see is my response booklet. So here I've got all the tests that require the response booklet still. And my response booklet is available for printing on my own, should I want to do that. Or if I don't want to do that and I just want to order from Riverside, I can do that as well. You can go online, order response booklets. They'll get shipped exactly as they are for WJ4 today in packages of 25, and then you can have those on hand. I like printing for the reason that sometimes I only give 1 or 2 tests that require the response booklet. I could simply just go to the pages I need and print those, and then I can use those during the session. But again, if you prefer to have the bind and print response book as they are existing today, that's fine. You can go ahead and order those from Riverside as well. You have your options. We also have scoring guides. So we have some new tests like sentence writing accuracy that has scoring guides to help you score, which is really important when you're learning how to score a new test especially. So it goes item through item, and we included actual responses from our norming study so that you can see how you can actually score these as correct or incorrect based on the rules for this. So this one is a brand new test, sentence writing accuracy, and this is one of the scoring guides with actual examples that we think is really helpful. And of course, you have written language sample scoring guide, letter writing fluency scoring guide. We also have item pronunciation guide. So if you ever have to pronounce certain things, you can go into this PDF, the PowerPoint, and you can listen to the pronunciation and look at that. We have a score report guide, a sample report. Now, if you're doing the dyslexia checklist, the dyslexia test set, we have the dyslexia teacher and parent checklist. So that's additional information you can collect for that. We also have an assessment service bulletin, and of course, our policy documents. Lots of cool stuff that you need to check out in the resources, especially before you get testing for the first time. I definitely think that everyone needs to go to Riverside Learn, get in there, watch the videos, see how it's done, get really familiar with it and practice. It is a new way. We tried to make it very user-friendly. We tried to really replicate WJ4 as best as we could with the feel of it and the look of things, but it is a digital assessment. It is different than anything we've ever done before. So it's really good for you to go in and access all these resources. So here I'm going to go ahead and get into the fun part. The fun part is actually launching into the test session itself. I now have my screen set up. I can just click here and it automatically launches this window that you see. Now, when I have my tablet, I can take my camera on my tablet and I can scan the QR code and it will launch the session on the tablet itself. I'm not on a tablet, so I did split my screen up so you can see what the tablet would look like. If you do need to, you could always put in the link and then you can copy the code. So I'm going to put that code in and I'm going to join the session. So this is my tablet view here on the right where it says tap, accept, activate the audio, animation, and voice capture features. So I'm going to go ahead and accept. That has to be clicked on the tablet. Once that's clicked, the tablet's going to show our little sloth hanging out that's waiting for more instructions. And over here, you see everything the examiner has on their device. So this is our whole examiner view. I'm going to go through the entire examiner view so you see what we have here. Right here, we have main navigation. Here, you can go home. You can see all of the tests that I loaded. You're going to see that these icons change as I progress throughout the testing session. So they'll either be not started, in progress, complete, or if I flagged them, there'll be warnings there. And I can also rearrange or get rid of tests if I want to skip or start them some other time during the session. Here's review mode. I don't have anything to review yet because we haven't administered anything, but I could go back to a test that I have administered and review it before I submit it for reporting. And I could also log out from here. Here you'll see the test name. This is oral vocabulary synonyms. Here we have our student information, so I can see who I'm testing. This is the administration overview, same as the WJ4 test books. So once you get to a new test, you see the administration overview as well as some scoring. So you need to look through this and be familiar with the test before administering it. And again, I really encourage you to go visit our Riverside Learn and look at all of the videos and really go through and practice with this, because it becomes very easy once you've practiced just a few times. But it's really important to become familiar with all of the things that we have now that it's digital. Things to know are always going to be here on the right side before you get into the test. So here it says this test presents items via audio, and this test uses voice capture. So we can check our audio settings if we need to, but I'm going to begin the test. Once I begin and I'm in here, and I did skip through, show you that the house over here is the same as the house over here. So another word that means house is home. So I'm seeing what the examinee is seeing on their device. And right up here, you'll see that the voice capture is active. It's red, it's blinking, so we know that it's active here. And you'll see another icon was added once I got into the session. Here I can take notes. I could take them at the item level. So if I have something to say about how they performed on this very particular item, I can put that in here. I could save it at the test level. So overall, they performed with a lot of great attention and perseverance on the test, or the test set level. Overall, I feel like the testing session was valid and an accurate measure of their performance. I could put whatever I need to in there and close up my notes. Over here across the top, you can see that I can hide the screen. Now the content is gone from the examinee's side, and I could also show it again. I also have this where I can take control of the examinee's tablet. So here, if I need to point to something, I can do that, and you see my hand is moving on the examinee's side as well. And then I can take that away. Over here, I have some information about my connection. It'll alert me if my connection is unstable or I need to reconnect. And then here I can also collapse the examinee's view and make the whole screen just the instructions. But for now, I'm going to keep it open so you can see how, as my view changes, the examinee view changes as well. On the bottom, just so you see here too, we have item score as we progress through. We have information if you have to get back to that test overview page. And it automatically keeps track of your basal and ceiling as you advance through the test. And then finally, our left navigation is basically supposed to be like your test record, where you can see how you're progressing through the test. You can see what item you're on, whether they got it correct or incorrect. So here as I advance, tell me another word for big. So big shows on the examinee tablet. And as the examiner, I can click any of the correct answers, an incorrect answer. I could input other. So if they give me a different response than is listed, I can score it myself based on their response, and I could input that response. I can click I don't know or no response. If I clicked correct, it automatically gives me the correct go ahead and advance to the next item. So I can do that. Here we've got that they just have to listen. Now you will hear words from your speaker. After you hear 2 beeps, tell me the answer. So as you move through this test here, you can play the words, and I'm not going to do this for each one, but you can play audio, and the audio plays on the iPad. So the audio will say, tell me another word for nap. Now, if the audio is not working or something happens, you're always welcome to say it, and we always have the words here. So you're never impinged. If you can't get the audio going, it never interferes with your testing. They respond, and as you go through, again, you keep scoring correct or incorrect. My basal's been met already. And if I'm clicking here to show ceiling, you see the tallies coming through here. And I will ceiling out, and it will end my test. So here my basal's been reached, my ceiling's been reached, and it's the end of my test. When I go to an end test, and this happens at the end of every test, I get this pop-up. It will give me an age equivalent and a grade equivalent. It will tell me if my test is complete. I have 0 flags. I didn't flag anything. Completed all required items. And I can also add in response style and behaviors. So here I can click anything to include it if I wanted to. It also tells me the next test. So I could begin the next test, or I could change if I want to go to a different test. So I switched over and I decided to go to a different test. Here I went to matrices, and again, it gives me the administration overview. The test presents some instructions via audio or video animations, and it uses voice capture. And again, gives me some scoring, and I can go into where my starting points are and start the test. Now, this test does have video. I'm not going to play through the video right now because it will be a long one, but it's really nice, and it's a feature that's very important. And for this, for tests like concept formation, if you remember, if you've ever administered those tests, there's a lot of language that you need to give as an examiner while you're giving the instructions for concept formation or for matrices, when you're telling them how they need to perform, what they need to do on the task. And so the video makes it so that it's less dependent on understanding the language. You can see the videos, you see what's happening, and you understand the concepts better. It's also completely standardized. So an examinee's performance isn't based on my ability as an examiner to give proper instructions or to read the instructions properly. I now watch the video, I completely understand it, I know what my requirements are, and then I can, go from there. So this is the complete value of having video recording to be able to show how to do something, and that's really important to make sure that the standardization is kept true, the results are valid. So that's a really great benefit. I'm going to move out of there and go into a test like passage comprehension. Again, starting points, and it's really easy to move through. Here you see I have automatic control. There's my finger again, because I do have to point. So it says, look at this picture. And the instructions tell me to point to the picture and say, says a house is bigger than the, what word belongs in the blank space? So they go ahead and they answer, and I can go ahead and just go through there. And then each item to themselves, I give the instruction, and then they move forward. This is really nice because, again, as they're giving the word, the answer, the reply, I can look at them, I'm paying attention to them, I'm not having to worry about reading instructions to them. They know what to do, and I can easily go forward and just score the tests in the way that I need to. So this is really great too. Basal and ceiling captured. Again, makes it seamless. And I'm just going to go through quite a few little tests just to make sure I show different types of tests so you see what happens. This is a timed test, and it includes voice capture. When you start this one, I'm going to read you some words and then decide which two words to go together. You read the instructions to them, and as you do that, I'm now in control. This is a tap response. So for the examiner, for the examinee, you get to tap your response on the tablet. So two of the words go together, tap the two to go together. So they do have to tap which ones go together. And as they tap, you see here, I can watch what they're doing, and I can see how they're tapping. Now, when they tapped the correct answer, you'll see it automatically went ahead here and gives me, that's right, and I advance to the next item. So there is some extra feedback to give to the examinee during that one. We have to make sure we do that. And again, if I look at their performance, I can see them responding on my screen, and it automatically says, correct, that's right, and I get to advance again. They can start their practice exercise, and I, as the examiner, can sit back and watch as they do their performance here and make sure that they're actually getting the concept. So as they're doing this, I can watch for their behaviors. I can look and see how they're thinking about it. I can look and see if they're struggling. I can see if they're putting any effort into it or just picking stuff to pick stuff. And it's really nice to be able to just watch as they go. I'm not going to start the timer because it won't let me exit out. It keeps you in there until the test is complete because it wants to make sure that you don't invalidate the test. But the timer is up here. Once the timer starts, the timer will run, and you can sit and you can just watch your examinee respond. It is wonderful to be able to see all the observations that we typically have not been able to see because we've had to be looking either at the the booklet that they're answering in or seeing how things are going, but now I can just look at my screen. I think it's also nice for the examinee not to feel like you're looking at them the whole time. They don't always know that you can see what they're doing. So it's really nice for them to just feel less pressure perhaps on them. So you're not, hovering over them as you're looking at as they respond. The other great thing is I don't have to worry about that timer. The timer goes and automatically when it's done, it shuts off. It'll say stop, the screen stops, and the items go away. So I won't have to keep checking my watch on my phone or the timer on my phone. I don't have to set up a timer anytime. It's a really nice feature. And if I am looking at, the examinee or observing behaviors and I get distracted in some way, I don't have to worry about the timer going over, that I didn't stop them in time. It's always just built in there. So it's really, really nice. Okay, and then jumping down to, let's go to calculation. Calculation requires a response booklet. So this is one of those where you do need to make sure you have that page printed out for the examinee. The page is printed out for the examinee so they can begin. So you do have them do some math problems and you give them the instructions about how to do it. And then they start. And as they're going, you could look around and you can score them as they go. It's pretty easy to see their numbers, but if not, you can always score it after the fact as well. So here I'm just putting in some fake correct and incorrect so I can get through this, but it's nice. Again, you can have your basal ceiling, end your test, begins the next one. Oh, here you're seeing your age and your grade equivalent. And again, moving on, or I could pick a different test. So I haven't run a whole lot of tests with this one. I'm going to end this session just so I can get a little bit into reporting. I could continue to go through all of the tests and show you all the neat features, but I would really like for you to get in there and play with it yourself. It's a lot of fun when you're first learning. It's really nice to be able to, here, let's go to review for like 1 second, to be able to focus on the examinee. And I think that's one of the most important things. And the thing I like most about this is I'm focusing on what's happening in front of me. I'm not focused on the technology. It's so easy that I just click through and I can think about how they're responding and really look at the behaviors that are going on there. So again, I didn't give all tests. This is kind of a wonky administration, so the review is going to be a little bit different, but you can review all of your items, all of the tests before you go to submit it. Passage comprehension, I had to go back to give a couple different items. Word fluency, I would have to go back. I didn't even administer it to give some more items. So I didn't finish these because I didn't get all the way into them. And it does tell me, though, if I'm going to go back and review these, I do need the examinee in front of me. So it requires examinee. There's going to be other tests that'll be scored later. So there are tests that we say, listen, it's too difficult to score written language samples right now. You need the scoring guide. You need to come back to it. So it'll move on without scoring. You can go back and put the score later. There are tests that they may become invalidated at some point. Maybe it's a timed test and a fire alarm went off and it's not a valid test. You can invalidate it. When you do that, it is marked invalidated and it will not be scored. So you don't have to worry about, oh man, I was in the middle of number pattern matching, the fire alarm went off, we never got through it. But there's data in there and I don't want it to come out on the report because it's not right data. It's not valid data. You can X out of that and you won't have that show up. And then if I had flagged any items, they would show up here as well. So it's nice to be able to go through the review, make sure that you are solid on everything that you have within the administration itself. Okay, I'm going to pull up a report of some site. Hopefully I have some data in here. Here is the create report. Now here we have a score report. We will be adding additional reports in the time to come. But right now we have our score report. I have my examinee's name and I have the test set that I gave them on the date that I gave it. So I can confirm all of that. And yes, that's the person I want to run the report on. I'll go to next. Now I can select my score template. We have our Riverside recommended score template, but let's look at what those are. So under the section of development, we have a W score, we have an age equivalent, or I could pick a grade equivalent. I have the proficiency. I can do a W difference score with a proficiency label, a relative proficiency index with instructional implications, or I could do CALP value with a label. And for relative standing, I can do my standard score with confidence band, my percentile rank with confidence band, or a Z-score. So you can choose these items. You can just choose up to 6 at a time, and that's just for space issues. So here we have that. I can select my normative basis, or I can select a grade basis. Advanced options let me adjust my confidence interval and my standard deviation. Here's all the scores I picked for my template, so I'm going to go with that. And then if I want to include session level notes, session level observations, test level notes, and test level response style and behavior statements. I didn't input all of those for the information, so not all of this is going to display, but I want to make sure I can get you a good report here. So here is what a report will start to look like for our HTML version, our web version. It will give you just the identifying information up top. And as you scroll through, it will give you clusters. At the cluster level, general intellectual ability, I have my development, my W score, I have my age equivalent, and my developmental zone. I have proficiency here, so my W difference and my age level tasks, they're manageable. I have my RPI, very, very, very valuable score. Shows me that age level tasks for the GIA are manageable, and my standard score and my percentile rank. Now, if I want to look at the tests that contribute to my GIA, I can just drop that caret down and I can see all of the tests that contribute to the GIA cluster. I see all of the scores, and I also see the differences, and I see a little indicator of where there are strengths and weaknesses. So that's a nice thing to see here as well. And that's why this web report is really helpful and beneficial, is you'll see matrices they struggled with, right? So 60 out of a 90 RPI, it's not so manageable for them when it comes to matrices, and it's not manageable for them when they come to verbal attention either. They find some of those difficult. So that's just nice to be able to see those individual tests that contribute. So if I'm looking at just the average standard score of 105, I'm thinking, they're great, no problem. They're a smart person, don't have to worry, they've got average intelligence, we're good to go. But that's not actually true. If I drop down to the test level, I see that they actually do struggle with a couple of skills that they could, use some help on in developing. And at the same time, I can see they have a really great strength in oral vocabulary. So vocabulary, number pattern matching, and verbal analogies, which is not surprising because of oral vocabulary. Great oral skills, able to express themselves. They might even sound smarter than they actually are because of how they're coming across with some of those oral language skills. That's great. But they do have some weaknesses we need to pay attention to. And that's why I think it's really important to be looking at this RPI score here and looking at the indicators next to some of these scores. Now, all of the available clusters that you have based on the tests you chose will show up. So the BIA also shows up, and I can see the tests that contributed to that. And then I can see the tests that contributed to every other broad ability cluster or narrow ability cluster, again, based on the tests I chose. And then I also have, I don't have a lot of data in here, but I do have the intro ability comparison for comprehension knowledge. So it's got my earned standard score, what was predicted, the difference. So this is a huge strength for this person, which is really nice to see. I could also come up here, and if I wanted to, I could download the report into a Word document. So although this view is great, sometimes we need to have just a Word version, copy and paste from, or just use if you think it's friendlier. You can list test under the clusters, or you can list test and clusters separately. I always like to list those tests under the clusters because they roll up into them, so it makes sense to me. But if I download that, I can go ahead and open the Word file, and then you'll see here it comes out basically a Word version of what I showed you before, with the GIA or the cluster level information at the top, and then everything that contributes to that cluster showing up right below it. So that's our Word version as well, and you can copy paste those tables into your own personalized report should you need to. So that's a lot of what we've got here and that I wanted to show you today. I wanted to go back and just make sure that you know where to connect with us so you can learn more about the WJ5. Like I said, it did launch. We're very excited. There's a lot on there, a lot of new tests, a lot of really fun, interesting things. As an examiner, I'm enjoying testing again. It's really exciting, and I really encourage you to go to Riverside Learn once you get logged in and go through our demos, go through our trainings. We've got you all covered so that you can learn what you need to learn and become super proficient at giving this. It will become second nature quicker than you can imagine, and it's really actually fun. And it's been fun for our examinees too. We've seen a lot of extra engagement, especially during our norming. So I hope you enjoyed our time today. I appreciate you joining. And again, if you want to connect with us, please feel free to scan the code and learn more about WJ5.
Thank you so much for the amazing presentation, and thank you again to all of our attendees for coming today. We are out of time for now, but if you are interested, as Dr. Gensky said, in learning more, please scan the QR code to be connected with someone who can answer any questions you may have and help you discover if the WJ5 is right for you. Thank you again for attending, and we will see you again soon.